Hello, this is Sensei Michael with Falcon 1 Defense. We have another character talk for this week. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about virtue. Now, virtue is kind of a word that we may not hear so much anymore, but I think that we as karate kids need to try and bring it back and talk about it more and try to live it in our life. And so what is virtue? And virtue is a habit of making good choices. Especially the kind of choices that make us into a good person. And so what are some of those choices? What are some of those traits, those habits that we want to have? Things like trustworthiness, things like friendliness, things like good discipline, being respectful of others, saying yes sir and yes ma'am, and having a good positive attitude. So virtue is kind of a lot of things, but it's about how can I live a good life? How can I be a good person for who I live around, my society, my community, my home, my family, and for myself. So I use that word habit, and that comes in with what we talked about last week with discipline and kind of making yourself train yourself to be able to make good choices and be able to reject things that aren't so good for us and choose things that are good for us. So that could be like rejecting that cookie that we talked about and eating well. That's discipline, to be able to say I don't want to eat that cookie too much, and I'm going to make a good choice on what I eat. Now, that's not quite as much in the way of virtue. That's a good, healthy decision. So virtue is, again, those good choices about how I interact with others and myself. So again, trustworthiness, being loyal, friendly, and courteous and kind. So how do we get virtue? How do we become a virtuous person? And it becomes with that habit, okay? Virtue is something that we are not born with. You know, we're not born with knowing how to be honest, okay, or maybe how to be friendly, and so these are things that we have to be trained, we have to be taught, and we have to be trained to become virtuous, and by developing these habits. And habit is something that we do every day. So again, just an example of some habits that aren't really necessarily connected with our virtue would be brushing our teeth. Every day we get up and we brush our teeth. Mom and Dad teach us how to brush our teeth, how to tie our shoes. We need to be able to do that every day. Put on the right clothes. Eat breakfast, things like that. These are kind of habits that we have that we kind of do every day without thinking about them. Now they may be hard to start, and that's one thing about habits, is they're kind of hard at the beginning. So if you're not used to doing something and you start trying to do that, it's going to be hard to do it every day, okay? So I want to try to read a book for 15 minutes every day, and you're not used to doing that. It's going to be kind of hard to start out. You may only be able to do 5 minutes the first day or even less, and you got to kind of build up to be able to do more. Now, we learn those early habits of how to take care of ourselves from Mom and Dad, and those are small, little habits, but they help us to be able to train ourselves to get bigger habits, especially those virtuous habits later on, okay? So as we learn how to train ourselves in the small things, we learn how to train ourselves in the virtues. So you have to start out and make a choice. That's a big part of this, okay? That's why we say, I choose to make every day special in karate class. I choose, that's our special C word, that I choose to make every day special. So I'm going to choose today to be honest. I'm going to choose to tell the truth. I'm going to choose to try and be more friendly to those around me and be nice, okay? Even if I'm a little bit, maybe I feel a little tired that day and a little grouchy, I've got to make that choice and say, you know what, I'm not going to let that grouchiness take over. I'm going to choose to be friendly. I'm going to choose to say yes sir, because we're not going to do it automatically. We're not going to naturally say yes sir. We're not going to naturally say yes ma'am to Mom and Dad. That takes a choice to do it. And just like if we want to get stronger by lifting weights, okay, right, make stronger muscles, we have to start with some small weights, start lifting those, and we get a little stronger. We can go to bigger weights, a little bit more, and then bigger weights. And the thing about lifting weights is if you quit, if you don't do it for a week, you're going to lose all the strength that you had from before. And you have to start all back over. It's going to be hard again. to get into that habit. So we have to, just like those lifting weights to get stronger, we've got to try and do it every day, okay, so that we can continue to grow and continue to get stronger, okay? And one thing about habits is they're a little bit hard at first, but if you keep doing them every day, after a little while, it becomes a lot easier. Just like lifting those weights. After you get used to doing it, it's going to get easier and easier, and then you're going to be able to lift bigger weights and be even stronger, okay? So, and that's the way that we strengthen our virtue muscles, okay? Just like strengthening our body muscles, doing push-ups and 6 inches in karate class, we have to strengthen our virtue muscles of being honest, being friendly, being respectful, and other good choices by starting small, but building on them and making a choice every day, just like picking up those weights, make a choice every day to get stronger in our virtue and the choices that we make to make good choices. And finally, I like to think about, there is a difference between kind of a single good act, you might even say a virtuous act, and a virtuous person. Which do we rather have? Would we rather have one act, one choice we make that's good, and that's it, and all the rest of our choices are not so good? Or should we try and become a virtuous person, which every choice that we make is that good habit of making a positive choice that helps ourselves and helps others? So just an example of that would be if mom or dad asked that we need to help out around the house and pick up our socks, right? Normally we'd throw our socks on the floor and we just forget about them and make mom or dad pick them up later. And mom and dad said, you need to help us out and pick up your socks and be responsible for them. So Monday I throw my socks on the floor and I leave them. Tuesday I pick my socks up and throw them and leave them. Wednesday I throw them and leave them. Okay? Thursday I pick them up, put them in the hamper. Does that make me a virtuous person there? Am I virtuous on picking up my socks? Well, we don't know yet. If it's just the first time I do it, we haven't shown that we had that habit of picking up our socks yet. Habit takes a long time. We have to do it every day. So if I pick them up on Thursday and put them in the hamper like mom and dad asked, but then Friday I throw them back on the floor and leave them, have I become a virtuous person yet? Have I become virtuous in cleaning up after myself? Well, the answer is no. If I continue to throw it, maybe one day a week I pick it up and put it in the hamper. Now that may be where I need to start. I pick them up one day, okay? But then if I do it on Thursday, if I want to say I'm going to become virtuous, I'm going to make myself a good habit of picking up my socks, what do I have to do Friday? Pick up the socks again. Put them in the hamper. Saturday, pick them up, put them in the hamper. Sunday, pick them up, put them up, okay? And I keep doing that every day. First few days it's going to be a little hard. I might miss a day. But just like lifting those weights, if I keep doing it, after 2 weeks of picking up my socks, I won't even think about it anymore. It won't be a hard choice to make because I've strengthened those muscles of my habit so that I become virtuous in my choices there. I become virtuous to be able to take care of myself and pick up after myself. So I hope that we can think about that as karate kids. We want to become virtuous, especially if we're going to be a black belt, okay? Black belts should be virtuous in their choices. Okay, so let's use that word a little bit more around the house. Let's talk to mom and dad about how can I become virtuous? What habits do I need to have? How can I build those habits? How can I have a habit of being trustworthy? How can I have a habit of being respectful, of being disciplined, and of being friendly around others and being helpful and not being so selfish? Because our bodies naturally want to be selfish. We've got to train ourselves, just like in karate, to train yourself to be able to do a side kick. Do a jump kick. We don't naturally know how to do that. We have to train ourselves. We've got to train ourselves to reject our selfishness and to become more virtuous, okay, with others. So thank you for watching. That was our character talk on virtue and habit. Okay, they're connected. You can't be virtuous without the habit. So virtuous and habit. Thank you for watching. This is Sensei Michael with Falcon One Defense.